Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the session on how technology can support a 70-20-10 framework. My name is Ian Baxter, and I'm going to be joined by James O'Gorman, who's going to give you an indication of the product. So I think we all live in really exciting times as far as technology is concerned. We have the Internet of Everything, which is all pervasive. We have mobile devices. By the way, has everybody got a mobile device that's got a screen? Have you all got these? Yes? No? So we've got mobile devices that are probably more powerful than any PC we've had. We've got social and collaborative software that allows us to connect in huge networks. And more recently, we've had the advent of machine intelligence. Now, what's machine intelligence? Anybody here shop on Amazon? Yes? We'll do Amazon. So as soon as you go onto Amazon, what happens? You start clicking around things. Amazon stores where you've been. As soon as you buy something, Amazon goes even better. We know what you're going to spend money on. So from those two bits of data, Amazon start feeding you things. If you're interested in this, you'll love this. Somebody who bought that bought these 15 other things as well. Fantastic. So they've got you. But that's machine intelligence. It's taking advantage of your information and it's turning it to their advantage. But as you'll see later on, you'll find that that's a very useful thing to have in this technology world. So as individuals, all of us consume. We consume it in a kind of our individual web. And that web allows us to shop, it allows us to meet with friends, it allows us to do so many things. Who here's got a Twitter account? Okay, who here's got Facebook? Lots of rolling hands, fantastic. Mexican waves, brilliant. So we do it, we're used to it, and in fact, we've all become millennials. Millennials is not an age group, it's a state of mind. So we've all become millennials, we're all happy to work that way. Then we go to work, and work is very, very different. Different systems. If you look at the way IT has had to push systems together, we may have disparate systems, we may have systems that don't talk to each other, and your working environment is very, very different to your home environment. Now, is this good or is this bad? It should be something that excites you because you've got a group of people called millenniums who are absolutely technically savvy. You've got technology in the previous slide that allows you to converse and interact with people. All we need to do is to bring it together. So technology has advanced, and we'll show you later on how technology has been brought together for you to operate the same way you do at home in work. Now, as learning professionals, you've known this for a long time. So who here is familiar with the 70-20-10 framework? Higher, I can't see you. Okay, most of you, fantastic. So the various categories, 10% from reading, 20% from people, 70% from tough jobs. Let's be frank, that's an old model today. We no longer need to rely on our boss for information. In fact, I run a team of 7 people, and they do not rely on me for information. In fact, they're telling me what's going on. So I can't actually say to them, this is where we're going, this is how we're going to do it. I'm not the font of all knowledge. So this model has evolved with time to reflect the technology we have today. So, let's take for example, on the social side. In the past, if you wanted to get social in the office, you put your head amongst the parapet of your cube and said, excuse me, does anyone know how to? That was the extent of social. Nowadays, with networking technology, with social technology, you can have a rich audience. I could ask all of you to send me your email addresses. I could then link you into a social network, and then I could say, you all heard my presentation, give me some feedback. So I can instantly expand my network, and you could have left this auditorium and I could still be communicating with you. It's exactly the same on the experiential side. Because of mobile devices, I can have information at the point of need. I don't have to go back to base, I don't have to reference a book. I can actually access information at the source of need. I can use that to help me with tough jobs, and then when I've learned how to do those tough jobs, I can then record information, put it back into the learning fraternity. So I'm not only consuming it, but I'm also giving back, and that's the other important thing about a social network. So we have a model that's been since the 1990s, and it's moved into the present day. And this is an exciting model today because you've got people who have the mindset, you've got technology that gives you the ability to do it. What we need is a driving force. And I would argue that you guys sitting here today have the most important role in a company today. Traditionally, you've had to focus on the 10%. And yes, these numbers aren't exact, and we all know why they're not exact because everyone's industry is different, but that's where your main focus has been. But if you can unleash the other 80, 90%, and you can get your people more productive, more excited about their job, more engaged, you're going to be more successful and a higher contribution for your companies. There is a downside to this. Anybody, any idea what the downside is? Suddenly you've got this wealth of information. When you have a wealth of information, you need to be able to navigate through it. Otherwise, you have what Burson has termed as the overwhelmed employee. Has everyone heard of that term? Burson by Deloitte, talking about the overwhelmed employee, where they're hit by so much information and they need the ability to navigate through the morass of information, people, to select that key information they want. So this is where that last part that I spoke about, right in that initial slide, comes in. This is where machine intelligence can help you navigate through based on your job type, your interests, your network. You suddenly have information fed through to you. So what I'm going to do now is to hand over to James. James, if you'd like to fire up the system.
So to move on from Ian's point, let's take a technology vision of 70-20-10 in action. The important thing to remember is these should not be seen in isolation, but ultimately working together for the betterment of the organization for each individual. But for the purposes of the presentation, I'm going to take you through each of them in step by step, starting with the 10 to cover off the formal learning, moving on to the 20 and finishing up with the 70 around the experiential component. So everybody's familiar with the 10%. That's the learning management system that's been around for the last 10, 15, 20 years. They're systems where they're managed by learning and development teams. The catalogues are created centrally. The information is made available to various different audience groups around the organization. So the typical learning catalogue still exists today and will always need to exist because you're going to have off-the-shelf content and other materials that you want to make available out to your core learning group. So as we see here, you're going to have your formal learning, you're going to have classroom, web-based training. That always has to exist, primarily for things such as certification training, compliance training that you're going to have to manage centrally. However, even the very nature of catalogues themselves are changing. That's very formal in nature. But if I take you back a screen, you're going to notice that catalogues themselves have evolved because of 70-20-10. You'll notice on the screen now that there are additional components that your end users will have access to because of the dynamics of the 70-20-10 model. There'll be files that they can access because of crowdsourced information. There'll be networks that they can join. There'll be groups that they can participate or discussion forums that they can take place in. So you're no longer limiting them to registering for a course, consuming a course and coming out of the system. You're trying to create a dynamic that allows them to be in the system regularly, to participate by adding things into the catalogue that's of value to the wider audience. So you're really looking at that crowdsourced information to support the 70-20-10 model. Now, a typical end user coming in, the first option is to look through the catalogue, but obviously you'll be pushing training out, something you've always done with learning management systems. Based on an individual's job role, there will be an opportunity for the individual to come in and to access training that's been pushed out by the HR team or by their manager or something that they've registered for themselves. But again, the dynamic of interacting with that content has changed as well. Let's take a look at one example here. Traditionally, if I'd gone in here to look at a classroom-based training that was running tomorrow, I would simply have information about that particular course, where to go, how to attend, etc., and that would be the end of my interaction. But because of the 70-20-10 model, and particularly around the social area, the technology now supports a different dynamic around the learning piece itself. You'll notice how classmates have access to each other. We're introducing familiar technologies where classmates can start to converse and already share information with each other whilst they're participating in that particular piece of training. So if I have a question about the training, I can ask the instructor, I can ask a peer or a colleague who's also participating. Or if I found information that maybe is of value or extends to the learning around that particular piece, I can actually upload that in against the learning piece as well. So you're moving away purely from consumption to more of a collaborative, social-based environment around that particular piece of learning. Things get even more interesting when we start to take a look at social as a means of learning. So I've already talked about crowdsourcing, and I've talked a little bit about networking. So when we look today in systems at how people are interacting, you're no longer looking at a top-down approach, which you had traditionally, top being the L&D team, down being people who are consuming content that they put in. Because the systems today allow networking to happen rather, individuals can go out, they can find peers and colleagues, reach out to them, network with those individuals. So as that crowdsourced information is put into the application, they have access to that from a wider range of people, not just the L&D team. So what we're looking at here is actually what we call a dynamic network analysis graph, where we see all the various different connections within the organization. Individuals with a larger circle are people who are high contributors in, and the size of the line between the connections is the amount of traffic that's flowing between those people. So in this example, we've got product managers putting in information about the product, and the networking happening out is quite substantial as people pick up information from those sources about the product, the latest innovations, things like that as well. So a very different dynamic in terms of social compared to the traditional top-down view that you may be used to at the moment. Now, the social component itself, it actually starts for a number of reasons. You start to see individuals as resources. So when you're coming into the systems nowadays, you're presented with the opportunity to find experts. So you're working on a project, or you're actually participating in a piece of learning and you need more information. Being able to go in and search for people such as customer service people or skilled individuals around your organization, find those people, network to those individuals, allows you ultimately then to consume and be updated anytime they interact with the system. So if they start a discussion, upload a piece of information, a file, a video, anything that might help me, that will actually appear directly onto my into my system. Okay. It's okay. Okay. So as the network is building, individuals are connecting, information is being shared, and again we start to introduce technologies, to Ian's point, that people are familiar with. Twitter, LinkedIn, people are very familiar with things like activity feeds, where they can see exactly what's happening within the network, and as people are starting to put things in, they're getting notified. And everything that I'm talking to you today is also available through a mobile device as well. So if I'm out in the field, I'm working on a project, I'm unsure of how to actually do something, I can go directly in, reach out to my network, post a question, get a response back immediately for the network. I'm not just reliant on that formal training catalog that's basically been made available by L&D. So much more dynamic, much more live, and a real opportunity for people to share their knowledge between each other as they go through. Okay. So core to this is fostering the behavior. Okay, so as people are putting information into the system and I'm consuming it, I can rate that, I can comment on that, I can share it on to other colleagues that I think it may be of interest to. But in addition, I can make a more formal feedback, so where I can actually say, I would like to leave an impression on an individual, to say, thank you for putting that information into the system. You've really shown yourself to be, a true team player, or a leader, or an expert in a certain area. And all of that is tracked to drive the behavior, because you get into gamification around leaderboards, who are the highest contributors, who's getting highest rated within your systems, which people are go-to people in terms of the ratings and the content that they're putting in. And actually you could argue it's a different view of talent. Who are the knowledge workers around the organization that people are respecting and providing feedback on based on the information that they're putting into the system. The final component is around the experiential piece. And experiential is really about, if I'm faced with a challenge in my day-to-day work, how can I find a solution to that challenge? Or if I actually have worked on a project, for example, that's been very challenging for me and I'd like to share my learning components out to other people, how can the system support that experiential piece? Well, there's a number of ways. We can group people together based on their experiences. We can allow them to come in here and to actually ask questions if they have an issue. They can basically reach out and ask the wider network for information, get that information brought back into the application. Technology allows them to look and see who's online, instantly have a conversation with somebody. So if you can see part of your networks online and there's somebody you know who's an expert in the area that you're struggling with, open up a chat window, have an instant conversation with that individual as well. And the alternate option to that piece would be actually, let me find it here, using embedded virtual technologies around virtual meetings as well. So again, you reach out, you find somebody's online, you're unsure how to use a computer program or working on a document that you're struggling with. It's simply fire up something like a virtual meeting between you and that individual on an ad hoc basis, share your screen, have your questions, have a voice conversation through your mobile device or basically through the system itself, and share video, share your screen, share a whiteboard, and work that problem through immediately as well. So all of these new tools are unified within the same platform, allowing you to reach out, have instant conversations, have instant meetings. But the most important thing about all that is as you're finding the information and you're having those meetings, they're all trackable back in. So the point I made about experiential was, one, you've got a problem, and two, you've got a solution. So when you get the solution to your problem, you have the ability to actually come back in and contribute that solution back into the system as well. So I've worked on a problem, I've come up with a solution, I'm going to draft a file or a PDF that I want to put back in and contribute to the betterment of other people. So based on the challenge I had, if they're faced with the same one, they have answers to that. Or the video conference that we had, record that and make it available for others as well. So it's all about supplying the tools, but also allowing them to use those tools for the betterment of other people within the applications too. The other dynamic that you may be finding useful as well is around subject matter experts within your organization. So if you have people who work in engineering or product development or the marketing team, is again giving them environments where they can own that as a subject matter expert, perhaps as an individual or a couple of people, and they can create workspaces. So you can come in on a regular basis, update the information in the system around your area of expertise. It's fully searchable and accessible by every other employee in the organization as a reference page to go to. So it could be the latest on engineering, what's happening, what's changing. I can subscribe to that and again be notified if that's changed on a regular basis. You'll notice for the last few minutes, everything that I've spoken about, I haven't really talked about the learning and development team. It's been about the employees themselves. They are helping themselves to learn. They are helping each other around providing information, providing solutions for the betterment of each other. But it's all captured and maintained in one place. And back to my very first page where I showed you a formal training catalogue, all those other components are really where the value add is coming, through the people, through the files, to the meetings, through the solutions that people are coming up with themselves and sharing out around the wider network. Okay. My final point is just to Ian's area about the overwhelmed employee. Okay. If you are a large organization, in essence, you're going to end up with a lot of information sitting here in the system as people feed information in and answer questions, etc., etc. So over time, there's a lot of information sitting in that particular side of the application. So what we want to do is start to utilize some of those technologies that Ian referred to around intelligence. Back to the Netflix analogy, if I've taken something, what else might be of use to me? And with that, I'd like to introduce you to Tim. Tim is Saba's intelligent mentor, and Tim is designed to basically throw through that information, the crowdsourced information, and filter that information down to provide relevant recommendations to me. It's based on algorithms that know who I am, know my network, know my job role, maybe know my career aspirations as well. So on a regular basis, Tim is trawling through the formal and the informal, and it's coming back and it's making live recommendations to me. Perhaps some files I need to read and to access, some people I need to network with, some groups I should look at joining. All that type of information is filtered down. And if I find something that I'm not particularly interested in, I may want to remove it and say it's not something I'm quite keen on, and it will bring in something else for me to work through as well. So you're taking away, again, some of that L&D responsibility. The systems intelligence is helping the end user by trawling through that vast amount of information and bringing back materials that they may find useful based on what the remainder of the population is doing for people with similar jobs to yourself, basically. Okay.
So, just a couple of things on that one. Is this real? We have one of our customers in the States called Guitar Center. They have a learning department of about 25 people. They have a company organization of somewhere in the region of 16,000 people. They've implemented this technology, and one of the things they found that their learning department went from 25 people to 16,000 people and 25, because everybody then became curators of content. Everybody was helping everyone else to improve performance. And they've seen a step change in their business, not only in retention, but a step change in performance at the store level. So it does work. And that's on a macro scale. If you look at it on a micro scale, there's an example I have between myself and my son James, not this James, my son James who's 17. There was a cry coming from his bedroom. I ran upstairs. What's the matter, James? He'd broken his computer screen. Just closed it on a pen, broken it. My mind went, oh, it's going to take ages to sort this out. We've got to take it back to PC World or wherever we bought it, wait for 2 or 3 weeks, then we'd get it back. Not the case. So James said, Dad, we can do it ourselves. I said, James, no way am I touching a PC. They're fiddly, they're difficult, can't do it. He said, Dad, let's go on the internet. So he borrowed my PC, went on the internet, searched for this particular PC changing a broken screen. So a model number of a certain PC changing a broken screen. Not one, but 8. 8 videos came up of people who had taken the time to record how to change a broken screen on this model of PC. So I said to him, okay, James, how do we know which is good? He said, well, look at the ones that are ranked and viewed the most. That's how we know that one. So I was feeling a bit more comfortable about this. The next stage was, yeah, but where are we going to get a screen from? Don't worry, Dad. A mate of mine had it go wrong a few weeks ago. I'm sure if I ping him, so we pinged him on Facebook. Within about an hour or so, he'd come back saying, the company you can buy these screens from is 24-hour Screens Limited. He placed the order. That was the next part of his network. Dad, I need your wallet. So he knew that his network had a wallet, he had a credit card, and I was able to then fund, thank you, James, fund his screen. So net result was, screen arrived 2 days later, we sat down with my PC, slowly going through, and within an hour, we'd done it. So from something that had been 2 to 3 weeks, and maybe £100 went down to £35 of my money, he's still paying me back, and a learning experience that I went through, and it was really good. I actually said to him, James, that's what our company does. I said, that's what the learning industry is about. And before, when I tried to explain learning and learning management, he'd go, oh, this is not good. But he then said to me, Dad, that's cool. Now, James is no different than anyone else that's going to be entering the workforce, and indeed than me. And I'm at the other end of the scale. So I'm excited about this. He's excited about this. It's beholden upon us to provide an environment which he's going to thrive and learn in. So, just very quickly, what we've shown you today is just one aspect of the platform. The platform is a cloud-based platform. It has all the components of a talent management system, so from recruiting, learning, performance, workforce planning, succession planning, and compensation. But the major differences are that it has a layer of collaboration and a machine intelligence layer at its core. So this isn't a separate tab or somewhere else you have to go to. It's integrated and infused within the entire product. So it can take information from all those different applications and enrich the experience of the user and also the people that need information from it. So if you're in HR, you might be wanting to find out suitable candidates for a new role. No platform is an island, so therefore it's important it has native app support, so it can go out to applications and your mobiles that you're all holding. It also has analytics that looks in. And finally, it can integrate, because again, it's not an island. It can integrate with any other application that's out there to enrich the experience. Sorry, I've left my clicker over there. So, another part about this. Going towards 70-20-10 is complex. It's not something you can just throw something over the fence and say, off you go, guys, it'll be easy. It isn't easy. It has to be looked at in a fairly formal way. And there are bodies such as the 70-20-10 Forum, which is an organization where all experts and people who are involved with 70-20-10, either practitioners of, or in the process of implementing, or thinking about it. And I would recommend anyone to go onto that website and to find out more. We've worked with them on a number of projects, and they've proven themselves to be really helpful with that kind of cultural change bit. So now you've got all the pieces available. You've got the technology, you've got the mindset, You've got people who are actually doing it in the present day age. It's down to you guys to really embrace it and move forward. So please come and see us on the stand. Enjoy a cocktail. I hope you've enjoyed this presentation. Thank you very much.